Chapter 71. A nuclear bomb. It could be built at any time. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 71. A nuclear bomb. It could be built at any time. Is this what you meant when you said it couldn't be built? Edward looked at Bolin, feeling a little helpless. Although Edward was almost certain of the answer, when he received the answer, he still did not want to face reality. Instead, he threw the question to Bolin. Bolin's eyes were vicious. In the past, be it his student's experiment or Cedric's experiments, he could tell at a glance whether it would work or not. His accuracy was basically 90%. But this time, he was wrong. As for the stable electric current and voltage that he mentioned, Raymond had obviously taken it into consideration. And he had done it very well. He had also created a new innovation, so much so that he could not understand it. Minister, actually, it's not entirely Borin's fault. What Raymond made couldn't have been determined with experience. Even now, I still could not understand at which point did he control the electricity to such a level and achieve a stable effect. BVEC Cedric's line of sight was pulled from the live broadcast. He turned to defend Borin. No. I don't think that it's heavy water. After all, Raymond didn't even test it. How could he know what he made was heavy water? Borin didn't think that he was wrong. Moreover, his laboratory wasn't dust-free at all. That is to say, even if he made heavy water, it's useless. It won't accomplish his goals. Cedric also agreed with Bolin's words and nodded unconsciously. What I want to know is whether Raymond can make a nuclear warhead. The rest is not important. Edward looked at the two highly respected people seriously, hoping to get an accurate answer. This answer was needed not only by Edward Seidel, but also by many people at the Pentagon. Once confirmed, they would be able to deploy forces and set things in motion. They could be prepared in advance. As the saying went, know yourself and know your enemy. Now, they needed to know about Raymond. Bolin and Cedric exchanged looks. Cedric said solemnly, Minister Edward, we think that Raymond has a high probability of creating a nuclear warhead, at least 80%. Even if his laboratory isn't clean, there's still an 80% probability. We cannot confirm it. After all, the current Raymond can no longer be deduced from common sense. What Cedric said basically meant that Raymond had already surpassed the levels of humans and could only be explained by metaphysics. How could Walker accept such a statement? The theory of probability. If it was really from the theory of probability, the probability of Raymond was 100%. That was because the things he made had never failed once. Even when it came to laser cutting, even if the laser cannon had problems, it would not be reduced to 80%. Why is it only 80%? Walker asked a question. Because there are some materials that are not available on the island, so the probability is reduced. All right. After all, it was only a small island. It was impossible to have everything. Even if it was, Raymond and the others might not be able to find it. If there were all kinds of materials, then wouldn't it be? Walker didn't want to think about the rest. Fortunately, he accepted their explanation. After all, the trouble that Raymond had caused them wasn't a small one. A laser cannon made in a day, could you believe it? 10 pages of reading in a second, was this something a human could do? Humans drawing blueprints of rocket engines by hand, was this something a human could do? After reading the book, he coded an artificial intelligence, was this something a carbon-based creature could do? One thing led to another, and Walker had to accept the truth. Besides, he seemed to have gotten used to it. Even though it had only happened a few days ago. Uranium 236, it was a nuclear bomb material known to the public. Plutonium-239, deuterium, and tritium had the same effect as uranium-236. It just so happened that there was uranium-236 on the island. So Raymond took this and used it himself. But this time, he did not go on his own. Robots were not afraid of radiation. Even if it was harmful to them, they can just make another one. There were enough robots now anyway, so causing a few explosions would not be much of a loss. But he had to make better use of them. Fortunately, Raymond had created a temporary cockpit. Because he was close enough, Raymond could basically perform the operation with zero delays. Raymond's series of actions had brought a group of Gundam enthusiasts to a climax. In the International Live Broadcast Room. The birth of Gundams is just around the corner. If you want Iron Man, you can do it. Just the barebone internals work for me. Actually, I think Raymond can totally make a Gundam. After all, battleships are massive. Installing it all by means of a gantry crane would be way too slow. You're thinking too much. Gundam. Those guys easily stand up to 70 to 80 meters. There's no need to build it at all. That thing has no practical use, it just looks fancy. We don't even have a prototype to refer to, how do you know if it's useful or not without a test? I don't care, regardless, Gundams are overrated, even now, you still underestimate Thunder God. You don't think he can do it. Go on and tell that to his face. By the way, even if Thunder God makes a nuclear warhead, how would he make use of them? Why even talk about launching them? Isn't this just to please Kim Hee-sun? Please her. Do you think it's like setting off firecrackers? It can't simply be placed just anywhere. This thing has nuclear radiation. I'm suddenly a little worried. Thunder God currently believes that the world is uninhabited. He could just launch it anywhere he feels like, right? That's right. Moreover, Thunder God intends to look for aliens. He probably won't come back for decades, so he won't feel any guilt at all. 2 minutes of silence for the American people. How could the Pentagon not have thought of what ordinary people could think of? Therefore, at that moment, a few military bases near the coast had already begun to deploy interceptor missiles. As long as Raymond was planning to set off fireworks, they would immediately act to intercept him. The Pentagon had pretty much figured out how Raymond would send the nuclear bombs into the sky. There were still more than 10 missiles on the island's military bases. Although Raymond might be able to make more powerful missiles with a longer range, he probably wouldn't do it. Wouldn't it be nice to have a ready-made one? The United States knew the capabilities of those missiles on the island like the back of its hand. As long as they were launched, it would be in the hands of the United States. At first, Raymond wasn't used to using the robots to operate it. As time went on, he became more and more familiar with it. In the end, he could basically aim it wherever he wanted. Before dusk, the first Raymond-made nuclear bomb was produced. Chapter 72. Raymond thought of an island. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 72. Raymond thought of an island. The moment Raymond made the nuclear bomb, the people in the United States were relieved. It was not that Raymond's nuclear warhead was not done well. It was far too tiny. Nuclear bombs were not as powerful as they were imagined. In fact, the power of a nuclear bomb depended on the quantity of the radioactive materials. The trigger mechanism also mattered. Usually, when a nuclear warhead was said to contain the firepower of a ton, it actually referred to the power of a combined explosion of a ton of TNT. Of course, the power of TNT was nothing to sneeze at. Otherwise, it would not be used as a measurement unit of nuclear bombs. A ton of TNT could move a 100 kg object 4.2 kilometers. Of course, this was only in an ideal state. However, a kilogram of TNT could blast a 2-story building into rubble. A 1-ton nuclear warhead was equivalent to 1-ton of TNT. But it could be multiplied. The range and energy could be multiplied. Raymond's nuclear warhead was equivalent to 10 tons of TNT. It wasn't very powerful, and there was only one warhead. Even if it exploded, it could be controlled. Raymond's bomb wasn't very powerful. But it told people the truth. Raymond was capable of handling a nuclear bomb with his bare hands. If something happened to him, the consequences would be hard to predict. Moreover, Raymond was an American. The United States had a powerful military strength, to begin with. Even if Raymond fired a few nuclear bombs, those countries would only dare to think of ways to deal with Raymond. They would have no way of going to war with the United States. It would be very frustrating. Ordinary people would never dream of being able to come into contact with the things in the upper echelons. However, things had blown up on Twitter. Shocking. Raymond wields a nuclear bomb with his bare hands. He prepared heavy water like it was some backyard school water distillation project, successfully making a nuclear bomb. Nuclear bombs are no longer the specialty of the same few big countries. Nuclear bombs are for sale, nuclear bombs are for sale. Power has a price, and nuclear bombs are priceless. When you have a nuclear bomb, what will you do? I'm just shocked. When Thunder God made a nuclear bomb, the live broadcast actually continued. The pressure behind it, the forces behind the program team that prevent them from shutting down the live broadcast. Do you still remember the four of them? They're not doing well now. What will happen to Raymond in the future? The top 10 consortia are moving again, and the secrets of the nuclear bomb are out in the open. Son, look. That thing is a nuclear warhead. Raymond pointed at the nuclear bomb and called out to Kim Son. Brother, don't lie to me. You just made a nuclear bomb like that. Who would believe it? Kim Son was a little doubtful. How about, forget it, it's very troublesome to deal with this thing when it explodes. I'll show you when we go into space in the future. Raymond breezed over the topic like it was nothing. This also made many countries heave a sigh of relief. But there was a sense of foreboding. If Raymond were to experiment nearby, the United States would probably have a headache. Then when are we going into space? Let's wait a little longer. The materials on the island are not enough. I plan to go inland to collect some materials. Raymond's simple words immediately caused a huge uproar. Raymond was going to leave the small island. This time, it was the end. Making a nuclear bomb was actually not a big problem. As long as it was not launched, there would be no problem. Raymond was about to learn the truth. He would be a walking nuke that the country would struggle to contain. In the international live broadcast room. Oh ho, this time it's a hammer. Once Raymond goes ashore, this matter will be completely exposed. Program team, hurry up. Quickly evacuate the people along the coast. Program team, hurry up. +1. +2. What do you guys think will happen if Raymond finds out about the real situation? Thunder God loves our civilization. Although he won't start a war, the top 10 consortiums would still lose a layer of skin. No. I think the people from the top 10 consortiums will directly detain Raymond. After all, they can't make money from live broadcasts, so they will use Raymond's technology to make money. To be honest, if it were me, I would have tied Raymond up long ago. Be it the battery technology or the laser technology in his hands, they would be able to make a lot of money. The situation is small. We have to let Raymond continue to develop. If we tie him up on the first day when we find out that Raymond's rocket engine is working, will more of these things appear in the future? That's right. The reason why Thunder God could create so many things is most likely because humans have disappeared. If he finds out that humans haven't disappeared, then his mind would change and he won't be able to create anything later. In fact, this netizen's statement was in line with the thoughts of many other people in positions of power. They were no longer interested in money and power. What they wanted was to let human technology take a few more steps forward. At that moment, an ad hoc online meeting had been convened. Although it was temporary, the people who appeared were all the top bigwigs in the world. The President of the United States, the Prime Minister of Japan, Yasukuni the Queen of the United Kingdom, Marina the representative of the top 10 consortiums, Shizo the Russian Emperor, Chekhov. Firstly, if you don't approve of Raymond leaving the island, please state your position. The President of the US did not discuss it with anyone and directly asked the question. As for whether these people could think of the key points, he was not worried at all. No one in this position had brains. Even if they did something that looked foolish, it could only mean that there was a conspiracy. After all, even if they were not smart, they had a think tank behind them. That was why he was asking the most important question. Okay, more than half of them don't agree, then, do you have any good suggestions? Soon, everyone came to an agreement. Take the initiative to send Raymond supplies, he would send whatever he needed. Anyway, this was not the first time such a thing had happened. 2 planes once had been hijacked. It was not impossible for another transport plane to crash. Even if he did not need a plane, he could use a ship. If it really did not work, he could just send an aircraft carrier. However, the key to this was to know what Raymond needed. Can you contact Gail Gadot, the woman you sent in? The President of the United States directly asked the representative of the top 10 consortia. After making a phone call, he got an answer. Yes, Gail Gadot's necklace has a one-way communication function. We can send her a message. Good, send her a message immediately. We must know what Raymond needs. The hope of mankind depends on this. No problem. Chapter 73. Gadot's Password. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 73. Gadot's Password. Actually, Raymond had already planned this. Once this nuclear bomb was made, he could start blackmailing the people outside. The battleship needed a lot of things. If he took his time, it would be hard to say what would happen in a month's time. Even with the help of the system, his was already very fast. But the battleship was not an ordinary toy. There were too many things that needed to be involved. With the help of the people outside, the efficiency would increase by a large margin. I'm sure Gail Gadot would find a way to ask me what I need soon. Gail Gadot had nothing to do. She looked like she was in a daze. In reality, she was thinking of a way to get close to Raymond. Now, Kim Hee-sun's appearance had completely disrupted her plans. At that moment, she felt the strange movement of the necklace. Gail Gadot knew that the necklace had 2 functions. One was the GPS. The other was the emergency exit. As for the emergency exit, Gail Gadot felt that it was actually useless. After all, Raymond's brain did not have any holes. But now, the necklace had actually started to vibrate slightly. What would this mean? There was a third function of this necklace. Is this so-called trust? If I added a self-destruct function to this necklace, then, Gail Gadot stopped herself from going down that train of thought. Moreover, the necklace was still vibrating slightly. The vibration was so slight that only a little bit of skin could feel it. Moreover, the necklace was located at the bottom of the valley, so there was almost no sound. Based on the rhythm of the necklace, it was a signal. Woo 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 woo. After carefully feeling it for a few seconds, Gail Gadot immediately understood. It was a Morse code. Plus, she had taught herself the code to the Morse code. But it was not that hard. Gail Gadot could crack it in her mind. With the correct information, Gail Gadot rose to her feet. This couldn't wait. Raymond had to admit that his old horny self had been awoken ever since he did those things last night. Or more like, his horny self was standing at attention. After all, as a healthy man with normal hormonal secretion, it was abnormal for him not to like women. It was just that he had more important things to consider, so he could not let the hormones take the lead. However, Raymond did not mind taking some benefits, be it from Gail Gadot or Kim Hee-sun. As expected, Gail Gadot very soon approached Raymond. The reason was simple. She was curious and wanted to see what he was doing. The simpler the reason, the more irrefutable it was. There was some reasoning involved. Gal Gadot thought that Raymond was still unaware of the program. She pretended not to know any better. She also wanted to go with Raymond to find the aliens and save the entire human race. But Raymond was indeed aware, and Gal Gadot needed to think that he was not. Moreover, Raymond also knew that the Earth was about to be hit by a giant meteorite. In fact, Gal Gadot was the one who was in the dark. In other words, the entire human race did not know the real situation other than Raymond. They didn't know the fact that the Earth was about to be destroyed. The current Raymond was in a state of doing nothing. His talk with Gal Gadot would not be of importance. There wouldn't be any problems. Raymond, you actually made a nuclear bomb. After learning the truth, Gal Gadot was stunned. She knew just how powerful Raymond was. Whether it was a rocket engine, or programming, or calculating cosmic velocities. But this was too amazing. Are you the bastard child of God? Raymond, are you not a human? Faced with Gal Gadot's awe, Raymond smiled slightly. Actually, I'm just standing on the shoulders of other scientists. Otherwise, I would probably have needed 2 days to make it. Saying this, Raymond smiled shyly. He was a little embarrassed to be praised. That's all. You have the nerve to say such words. Do you know how much time it took them to make a nuclear warhead even after all the research? At that moment, Gal Gadot did not hide her emotions at all. It could not be helped. She had been informed of the situation, but seeing it with her own eyes was something else. It was just like how people thought that 100 million in cash was not much when viewed in a picture. However, looking at 100 million in cash yourself was a different experience. Your heart would race, you would feel faint. Actually, I'm not even that good. I'm just average, in the international live broadcast room. The audience was almost unanimous in praising Raymond. However, Raymond was completely unaware of it. But when Gal Gadot praised him, he had actually looked sheepish. People had no choice but to ridicule him. Are you even a man? Is that what a man should say? I can't take it anymore. Humph. He was actually faking it. I'm sorry, I've already clipped it. In the future, I'll definitely show Thunder God how shy he was back then. Thunder God. Actually, I'm not that good. Ugh, I guess Gadot's mind is in a mess right now. I don't believe that the Thunder God has never been defeated before. Erf, I can't stand his shy face. The emoji spammers have already moved out. Tonight, we'll hunt to our heart's content. He's not just bold, he's so vulnerable. I'm actually a big fan of Thunder God, but why do I want to beat him up now? Give the man a break. He had a rough upbringing. Now that a great beauty has suddenly praised him, of course, he'll be like a deer caught in headlights. What the person above said makes sense. +1. Seeing that it was about time, Gal Gadot suppressed her emotions. After thinking about it for a while, she asked, Raymond, do you plan to test this nuclear warhead? I don't plan to test it because I haven't drawn the blueprint of the propulsion. Oh, that's good. Gal Gadot heaved a sigh of relief when Raymond was halfway through his sentence. If you want to see it, it's not like I have no choice. Ramon added. A nuclear warhead was a nuclear warhead, while a propulsion system was another system. Gal Gadot was still clear about this. So, when Ramon said that there was no blueprint for any propulsion, she let out a sigh of relief. At the same time, she probably understood why her necklace would suddenly vibrate. But when Raymond said the next sentence, she was shocked. You have other ideas. Great. Chapter 74. Raymond. I want materials. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 74. Raymond. I want materials. What? Away. Gail Gaddo's voice was trembling. She felt that if Raymond had a nuclear threat, the United States would definitely not back down. Perhaps, in the next moment, the island would be reduced to ashes. Isn't that simple? Raymond said very calmly, don't we have a few military bases on the island? I just need to modify it. Wouldn't the nuclear warhead have a propulsion system? Oh, actually, I'm not that curious about nuclear bombs. That's good, I'm too lazy to do something this trivial. Raymond shrugged and said indifferently. Trivial. When Raymond said this word, Gail Gaddo suddenly had something to say. Then what do you think isn't trivial right now? Of course it's the breeding program. When Ray said this, he was not thinking. It had just slipped out of his mouth. So his expression made no changes whatsoever. When he heard what he said, he suddenly wished that reality could be like the internet, with the undo button. This way, he could avoid embarrassment. As his thoughts flew, he suddenly felt that teasing Gail Gadot like this was actually quite interesting. As expected, a red cloud immediately appeared on Gail Gadot's face. She stammered and did not know what to say. Meanwhile, in the international live broadcast room. At that moment, a group of netizens were going crazy with joy. Straight man. A classic, cancerous straight man. If it were me, I would immediately push the thunder god down. I wouldn't give him a chance to regret it at all. Be reserved. Girls should be reserved, don't you understand? Early bird gets the worm. No use acting all coy. Gail Gator and Raymond are both Westerners. There's no need to be reserved. Just do the wham bam already. King shit. Can't you see that Kim Hee-dot's son is still there? Hers are at least twice the size of Gadot's. Shouldn't he struggle more in making a decision? Good God, Kim Hee-dot's mentality is currently that of a teenager. Do not go down that road. I don't care. Anyway, I want them to start fighting right away. This way, you can get a kink out of it, right? No, are you suppressing it? Tell me how much you've been holding back. When these bullet screens appeared, some people realized that the gambling entries below the live stream room had already been locked. There was no longer any possibility of being locked down. Instantly, a large group of people wailed. No. I didn't bet correctly. He. Fortunately, I'm fast. I've already placed a bet of $10,000. Within 72 hours, it'll stabilize. What the F***, I typed into the wrong entry. Humph, now I'm not sure if I bet for the right entry. Duo didn't agree. Are you an idiot? Can't you see that Gadot is just one step away from doing it? What do you mean? What a simp. He. In other words, as long as Raymond gets that tiny bit more assertive, Gadot will be in Thunder God's pocket. No way. My Gadto's purity will be taken just like that. He, I'm looking forward to it. You guys ready to watch them get tangled in a mess of flesh and liquid? Yes. In fact, Gail Gadot was already prepared. If Raymond was just little more assertive, there would be a big battle tonight. But, as a man who had never been in a relationship before, although Raymond had read a lot of books, he did not know how Gail Gadot would react at this moment. Moreover, at that moment, he found the red-faced Gail Gadot a little cute. He had said it in passing, not the slightest bit aroused or having the desire to bet her on the spot. Other than the breeding program, Gail Gadot tried to divert his attention. As long as Raymond was distracted from his nuke building and went ahead with the breeding program, disaster would be almost averted. But he was a straight-laced man of business. He was also a terrific engineer and inventor. The straightest of all laces, Raymond. As expected of him, other than the breeding program, the second most important thing is the space battleship. However, the space battleship is lacking some materials now. What materials are you lacking? Gal Gadot took the opportunity to probe. This was precisely why she had looked for Raymond. Furthermore, she believed that the people from the program team outside the screen, as well as the people from Ross Financial Group, would definitely want to know the answer. We lack some primary ores. After all, the keel of the battleship is important, and we need a new formula. Specifically, titanium ingots, iron ingots, aluminum ingots, copper ingots, tin ingots, gold ingots, magnesium ingots. Other than these, the most important thing is uranium. Without this, we don't have any power sources for the battleship. Raymond said a lot in one breath, but he believed that the people outside the screen would definitely hear it clearly. They would send this list to him in the shortest time possible. As for how to send it to him, that was no longer his business. Would they be enough? In order to make it less awkward, Gal Gadot continued to ask. It's just that the demand is a little high. About 300 tons of common metals, 1 ton of gold, 30 tons of titanium, 1 ton of uranium. If the demand is high, then the collection time will be long. Actually, there's no need for that. As far as I know, there's a large smelting base in a NASA base just off the coast. If we can produce gold and uranium, we can probably get them. As for gold and uranium, that's simple. Simple. Just get a plane and head straight to New York. Tuesday we'll be able to pilot it without a problem. The key now is the process of crossing this sea to get to the other side. Is it difficult for you? No, I plan to manufacture the manpower to do it. There are almost 4,000 robots now, and the production rate is only increasing exponentially as they build more of themselves. What are you planning to do? Get resources, build a road. Build a big road to go there, and it will be convenient to transport things in the future. The airport on the island is too small, and it is not suitable to transport large items. When Raymond said this, the group of big shots immediately let out a sigh of relief. This meant that they would be able to stay for a longer period of time. They could also better discuss who should prepare the materials Raymond needed. This idea is quite good. When do you plan to start construction? Gal Gadot followed up. Start construction. It has already started. I didn't mention it to you just now. Oh, I forgot, I was talking to Kim Hee-sun just now, in the international live broadcast room. The program team also knew what the audience wanted to see at this moment. They immediately split Raymond's live broadcast room into two. On the right side of the screen, a distant view immediately appeared. One after another, Raymond's robots were like ants, continuously operating on the other side of the coastline. Soon, a steel foundation rose up and began to hammer into the ground inch by inch. In the hands of the robot army, infrastructure seemed to become an extremely simple thing. It seemed like a game. Raymond only needed to say a word, and his vision would rise up from the ground. Chapter 75. Private Meeting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 75. Private Meeting. Motherf *Kur, the rate they're building that thing, is even faster than the Chinese construction workers. Amazing, monsters will always be monsters, no country can compete with this pace. As expected of the Thunder God, he never fails to deliver. I wonder what the Chinese would think when they see this. Just thinking about it intrigues me. Oh my. This speed is not bad. In the past, when we built the Shinkansen, it was about the same. F***CKU, your F***King Japan is this quick. What are you bragging about? As expected, with robots in hand, I would have the world. The Thunder God is almost heaven-defying. Actually, I have a bad feeling about this. If we keep using steel structures, it won't last very long. Why are you even talking about longevity? How long do you think we need to stay on Earth with the Thunder God lighting a path for us into outer space? Dame Denis. If this goes on, Thunder God will soon discover the truth. OF***CK. Is the live broadcast room in danger of being shut down again? The faster the robots went, the less time there was for those who shook hands and exchanged empty pleasantries. At that moment, the video conference started once again. However, this time, the topic of their discussion had changed a little. It was still about Raymond. Regarding the materials that Raymond needs, I think that each of us will contribute our parts. Of course, I know that when your materials arrive, there won't be enough time, so you can buy them from us. Of course, the price can be discussed. The meeting didn't last long, and they got to the main topic. To be honest, the things that Raymond needed were not too big of a problem for countries. Each country had more than enough ores. As for gold, they could squeeze it out. The most important thing was uranium. It was something that was needed for nuclear reactions. Raymond would struggle to extract a ton of it. The leaders of the few countries did not plan to mull over it. As long as he did not come out now, there would be plenty of ways in the future. Moreover, Gal Gadot was there. She could distract Raymond for a time. She could even throw him off topic with new inspirations, even after the battleship is completed. Mr. President, regarding this matter, our country will definitely follow the footsteps of the United States. The Prime Minister of Japan, Yasukuni, immediately decided on this. Regarding the matter of the materials, we can contribute the money and manpower. The key is Raymond's technology. Are we going to divide it among a few countries? The moment the Russian Emperor opened his mouth, he directly went to the key point. If other countries are to come in, this matter cannot be rushed. In any case, your United States has enough resources. Supplying Raymond is not a problem at all, right? Chekhov rose and stood in their way. How could he not understand the USA's proposal? If the United States secretly took action at that moment and sent the things that Raymond needed, the other countries would definitely not agree. How much spy equipment would you sneak in? Would you get the technology in advance? Would you privately discuss with Raymond? These were all questions. Fortunately, the USA was acting openly. They had called for a meeting. However, when a meeting was called, there were other points of disagreement. What if we gave something and then other countries wanted to come in and get a share? For example, China was not present at the moment. It was another developing country. But its military strength was not to be underestimated. If the Chinese stepped in, then what would happen if we gave them something? The USA could not determine the price. They were just selling tickets, in a way. But what gives you the right to claim this fare as yours, the United States? Could you charge however you wanted? So, the fierce Russian Emperor Chekhov shot down the USA's momentum. The president remained silent. Naturally, someone had to speak up. The Queen of England, Marina, pressed the switch. Regarding this, Mr. President, what is your price? Setting the price now would set the tone for all future discussions. If the price was too high, the people present would probably think of ways to get it themselves instead of buying it from the United States at a high price. Although it would be risky to take it directly, when was dealing with the United States never risky? Would the United States come clean? What kind of joke was this? What manner of despicable backstabbing could countries not pull off? They would stop at no means to dominate the market and dominate the military position. Even the seemingly gentle and refined Chinese could do some shady things. Let alone the United States. Right. What's the price? The representative of the top 10 consortiums, Sirius, also raised the same question. More money, less money. Those were two different concepts. In fact, the show had reached such a stage that it was no longer under the control of the top 10 consortiums. They were rich. They were indeed rich. The sum of money was several times more than the U.S. Treasury. But the U.S. had advanced weapons and strong military strength. When the U.S. didn't stand out, the top 10 consortiums could do whatever they wanted. But now, they could only follow behind and bide their time. But it was rather apparent that the US was no longer lumbering by idly. Otherwise, it wouldn't have locked up several important officials. The United States Congress stood on the strength of the United States this time. They temporarily put aside all economic issues. The price isn't high either. $500 billion US. The president threw out a sentence and didn't say anything else. $500 billion US. Are you kidding? Mr. President, is this your personal price tag? Chekhov rolled his eyes. Chekhov could not care about his reputation in such a private meeting. After all, they were never broadcasted. Moreover, he was already stained on the internet. He had once caused controversy by using a less than formal term to refer to refugees. Mr. President, to be honest, the price is indeed a little high. Even Japan, which had always stood on the side of the United States, felt a little troubled when they heard the price. Was Japan's economic strength strong? Really strong. However, this was real money. The United States could renege on its debts to other countries. However, could other countries renege on their debts to the United States? Dream on. Believe it or not, the United States stick a rocket cannon up your bum in the next second. If you don't pay, your life will be taken. Military strength was a simple language. At that moment, Sirius remained silent. The 10 consortia had to give him the money. Ednel.co they could form an alliance and look for mercenaries together. However, how could a mercenary's military strength be compared to a country's? The only thing they could do was to rely on a strong country and slowly roll with the wheel of history. Otherwise, they would be crushed by the vehicles of history, leaving nothing behind. However, Sirius was going to withhold his thoughts for just a little longer. Chapter 76. A specific price. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 76. A specific price. He did not intend to offend anyone during the discussion between the countries. Marina naturally knew what Sirius was thinking. So when it was her turn, she opened her mouth. I know that the United States has always wanted Germany's picometer semiconductor technology. Unfortunately, our country has already obtained it. Give me a price. Britain's military strength was incomparable to the United States. However, technology was a part of strength. And this had been gained from Germany. It was naturally good to be able to offset a part of the cash. As for the picometer semiconductor technology, it was actually closely related to the chip industry. Picometer was a unit. Below micron was nano, and below nano was pico. Breaking through nanotechnology was a problem that every country had been concerned about for more than a decade. After all, this was a technological era. The ability of the chip represented a part of national power. Although Germany had secretly broken through, this secret was not kept secret for long. Therefore, after learning this news, the United States immediately mobilized undercover agents to try to obtain this technology. Unfortunately. However, the British seemed to have taken the lead this time and got their hands on the technology. Moreover, they had placed it on the table as a condition of the deal. Hearing Marina's words, Mr. President's face shifted away from the screen for a while. Obviously, he was discussing with the think tank behind him. After a while, the president returned to the meeting. It's worth $50 billion US. No. At least $200 billion. Her Majesty Marina immediately responded with a little anger in her voice. $100 billion, no more. This technology is not a mere step up, but the change of an era. This technology transcends Moore's law, Marina continued to argue. I didn't intend to elaborate on it, but it looks like I'll have to. Even if you Brits get this technology, so what? With your semiconductor ability, is there any way to put it into production within 2 years? Only the United States can put it into production within a few months after we get it. You are offering a technology that you don't need in exchange for Raymond's technology. 100 billion is already a lot. The president was blunt. It's precisely because you Americans can use it that this technology is worth money. If I give it to Japan, Mr. President, how much do you think they will give back? Marina said with a smile. The Japanese Prime Minister, Yasuko, smiled as if he was trying to signal Marina. If this technology was real, he would be willing to have Yasuko give out 300 billion US dollars. But on the surface, he was probably out of luck. Moreover, Britain had not discussed this matter with him in private before, which meant that the chances of getting it was very small. It could be worth 150 billion US dollars at most. 180 billion, no less. Mr. President, you know the value of it. And we are pressed for time, don't waste too much of it. Don't worry about it, our people are already loading the materials. Chekhov praised him in a monotonal, expressionless face, you have guts. Looks like this ticket will be easier to get. 180 billion is fine, but I hope that you, Britain, will settle this matter within a day. Marina nodded in agreement. After a while, she turned off the computer. She did not want to participate in the rest of the matter. Moreover, she had second-hand plans. Would she believe what the United States said? Absolutely not. Therefore, she needed to quickly get her men into the United States. This way, she could arrange for someone to go with the Americans during the handover. Only then would she have some confidence. 200 billion, plus 400 kilograms of uranium. After the British withdrew from the meeting, Chekhov said straightforwardly. No. Absolutely unfair. That's it. I'll think of a way myself. Chekhov said this very easily. But how could the president not understand the meaning behind it? Russia's national strength was not as great as it was a few decades ago. However, they still had a lot of hidden strength. And what they hid the most was their military strength. Moreover, Chekhov was a quick and decisive man. If negotiations were to fall apart, he would really do something unpredictable. He would do anything for his country. Otherwise, he would not be called the great emperor by his people. As long as he remained in power, he could lead Russia forward. Until it regained its former glory. After thinking for a moment, the president let out a sigh of relief. To play on the safe side, he added a little more. $200 billion and 450 kilograms of uranium. It was almost the final answer. Chekhov also thought for a moment. In the end, he agreed to this condition. Was there anything advanced about Japan's technology? There were too many. There were too many. Japan did not take much of the world's patents. However, Japan took a lot of patents that could make money and made a lot of money they did. Logically speaking, Japan had the strength to negotiate with the United States. Unfortunately, Japan developed steadily by completely relying on the strength of the United States. If the United States was not a big tree waiting on them would be a disaster. There were also the Chinese. And even the face of South Korea could kill them. After all, Japan did not have an army, only a so-called self-defense force. At least on the surface, it was impossible for Japan to develop its military. President Ao Guanhai, we also have the technology, Yasukuni, you should just take the money. You can develop the technology all you want, I won't stop you. In fact, in Ao Guanhai's eyes, Japan was the American ATM machine. Moreover, it was the kind that did not require a card or password. If he asked you to give it, you had to give it. Not giving it. Believe it or not, I'll smash it right away. After all, the American troops stationed there were not to be trifled with. In the end, Japan still agreed to take the money. Similarly, the United States also took the money. The meeting ended very quickly. However, Sirius received a piece of intelligence from the president. The Ross Consortium is already secretly developing nano-neutrino batteries. Their laboratory is located. Sirius was not surprised at all when he received this piece of information. After all, Gail Gadot was a member of the Ross Consortium. It would be ridiculous to say that they did not have any ulterior motives. However, this piece of news gave a glimmer of hope to Sirius. Perhaps, it was not necessarily a bad thing to fully support a country at such a critical time. Chapter 77. The British. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 77. The British. If the Ross Consortium had developed the battery technology in advance, it would have been a big problem. As Sirius saw it, the scientists were not all too baffled about the technical aspects of what Raymond had done. Replicating it was a far bigger challenge. Even if they had directly copied the blueprints, it would have taken them a long time to come up with something. Therefore, this matter was far more secure than it appeared on the surface. A large cargo ship was currently docked at the NASA port along the coast of Texas State. The busy soldiers were constantly loading supplies onto it. In fact, most of the things on the cargo ship had been emptied by the United States. However, Edward discovered something that didn't make sense. Trident 16 was the name of the cargo ship. The cargo ship's carrying capacity was 220,000 tons. If the materials Raymond needed were stored on it, it would be easy for him to be exposed. Therefore, Edward waved his hand and placed the container that he had put down on it again. Minister, this batch of items is very valuable. Don't mention it to me. What's more valuable than uranium? Just follow my orders. If any party is not satisfied, ask them to come and talk to me. Yes, Minister. Edward's authority was real. If his subordinates tried to snatch it away, they would not get any words out before he caught on. The only people who could bargain with him were the few big shots. Unless there was something wrong with the brain of some god who wanted his company to be targeted. This Raymond, he is probably more important than one country, oh no, maybe even several countries combined. Edward was happy to see Raymond being valued. After all, Edward wanted to see ASCI.FI world come to reality. Raymond was the one who could lead the era forward. Should I leave a message for him? He thought about it for a long time and decided to leave a message. It wasn't difficult for a man of his position. The containers were loaded on Trident 16, one by one. They had to be done before 3 a.m. tonight. These very orders had come straight from the president. It was a tall order. To transport a freighter, there had to be at least a shipping list on it. The freighter's affiliated company had to be listed, along with the destination, and a complete manifesto. The direction of the freighter, the time of the freighter's departure. Charted plot. The state of the freighter's operation. Whether the freighter's engine was in good condition. The voyage log. The records of the various forms, as well as CCTV footage. There was no skipping all this. Otherwise, Raymond's brain would spot the flaw in a minute. He was not a perfectionist, but there was no room for error in this. Such were Edward's standards. In order to meet these standards, Edward had to expend a lot of manpower and material resources to barely meet his requirements. But he had deliberately left a flaw on a container with his own hands. Humans always fail to predict or understand themselves. Time slowly passed, and at 2000 hours, a guard knocked on Edward's door. Minister, a few officials from England are requesting an audience. What are they doing here? Edward asked himself in a low voice. Tell them to wait in the reception room. I'll be there right away. Understood. Edward didn't know the details of the conversation above. However, he knew that the Brits had almost gotten the tickets. In the future, they would get a share of Raymond's technology. Therefore, even if he was the Minister of Defense, he could not refuse the people from Britain. Soon, the people in the meeting room met. They exchanged pleasantries and took down names. However, Edward only remembered one person's name accurately. The deputy head of the British Intelligence Department, Motley Morris. Motley was about 35 years old, but there was more to him, considering how he reached this position at such a young age. Moreover, he held the highest position in this group of people. Only he was qualified to speak to Edward himself. Minister Seidel, let's cut the chatter, shall we? Our main purpose here is to hand over the technology related to the Pico semiconductor to you guys. Thank you for coming all the way here to deliver the technology. However, the facilities here are rather simple, and built for a short-term purpose. I hope you don't mind. How could Edward not understand Motley's meaning? Since he mentioned a main purpose, there had to be a secondary purpose. Judging from this person's expression, the main purpose this time was actually the main purpose. Therefore, Walker did not intend to continue speaking on his own. Director Edward, you don't have to worry about this. We've been traveling all year round, and this kind of environment is already very good. This time, I think that since it's a technical handover, it naturally requires a professional team to verify it. Therefore, Director Motley, please allow me to inform our technical team to avoid any mistakes. Motley was not angry at being interrupted by Edward. He had dealt with such people for a long time. He could control his emotions. It did not take much time. It only took half an hour. Most of the technology related to the Pico semiconductor had already been verified. But when they reached the final point, Motley fell silent. Edward knew that it was time for him to speak up. Minister Motley, where is the rest of the technology? Or was it your intention to omit the key component all this time? Or perhaps, did UK not get its hands on the complete bit of technology? Minister Seidel, there is no need for us to continue with the bureaucratic rhetoric. When you go to the island this time, my British Empire hopes to throw in a man or two. As long as you agree, I will immediately bring the rest of the technology to you. Oh. That would be a no. No. Then, I can't give you this technology either. Seeing that Edward was so firm, Motley dropped the topic. The best part of the information was the key. He was not afraid that Edward would not comply. The key is, none of our people will go to the island. How can we let your British people go to the island? None of you will go to the island. Motley did not understand. It was such a good opportunity, why would the Americans not send people? There must be a problem. Minister Motley, do you really think our technology is very good? Yes. American technology is indeed among the best in the world, but I don't think we can go to the island without Raymond knowing. His robots won't be so dangerous. But who is the actual brains of the operation? Edward laughed. We're a very human nation in the United States, we're not going to put our people at risk. At least we're not going to put them at risk until we know for sure. And once one of us gets to the island, there's a greater chance that Raymond finds out, and this one-man technological boom will falter or cease. That's something we don't want to see. Chapter 78. Trident number 16. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 78. Trident number 16. Minister Motley, if you do not believe me, you can board the freighter with me and see if any of our people will sneak onto the island. Ednel.co Edward wasn't afraid of what Motley would say. After all, that was the truth. You can think whatever you want. Motley. Naturally, the British had thought of this before. Judging by America's track record, they had guessed that they would definitely follow them to the island to deliver the materials. However, they never expected the Americans to act out of their expectations. This doesn't seem like your style. Motley kept this thought to himself and remained silent. However, he was skeptical. He planned to go with them. Although Motley only brought a few people this time, they were all elites. He did not believe that anyone could slip past their eyes. If no one from the United States truly went, then he had nothing to say. After all, this was a big matter, and Raymond was the most important. Each country continued mulling over the situation while the United States constantly loaded materials. Meanwhile, Raymond was taking a rare break. Even when he was resting, he did not forget what he needed to do. He was holding a semiconductor book. Behind him was Kim Hee-sun massaging his back, and beside him was Gal Gadot feeding him some fruit. Even though Raymond did not say a word, everyone knew that he was enjoying it. Previously, Raymond flipped books like it was a flipbook animation. But this time, he was slowly reading the book. He took a few minutes to finish a page. There were even moments where he seemed to have forgotten something and even flipped back to read it again. It's over, it's over. The Thunder God's fire is out. This is what a man should do. It's a blessing for all. Finally. I'm so angry. It's the Thunder God. If it was that F***king Japanese guy, he would probably be F***king dead by now. Baka. Did our country offend you? Are you trying to pick a fight now? He's angry. Haha, he's angry, he's angry. By the way, look carefully, what book is Thunder God reading? Why can't he understand it? Speaking of which, I'm not sleepy anymore. It's a book about semiconductors and chips. Actually, I've wanted to ask this for a long time. Doesn't a space battleship need a CPU? Looks like Thunder God has a plan. However, the problem with this chip is not that simple. From what I know, the chip industry, forget it. Thunder God has researched his way through every hurdle every time. Alright. I'll drop it. Thunder God is awesome, Thunder God can do anything, hooray. Mother****, do you know how to speak? Don't give said sentences like that. Would it kill you to say it? The night passed quickly. Not long after Raymond woke up, Tuesday sent him a message. Sir, a huge cargo ship is heading towards the island. According to the information I received and the satellite's remote sensing, it is expected to arrive on the island in an hour and a half. Take it and keep it simple. Don't expose too much of yourself. Yes, sir. Edward had taken great pains. He calculated the weather and wind direction before 10. Only then did he give it a reasonable boost in speed. Edward and Motley carefully wrapped up and got off the ship. In order not to be discovered by Raymond, it was considered hard work for them. However, they did not know that Raymond already knew. Moreover, this freighter had been a trap set by Raymond. Most importantly, the billions of people outside the island would remain unaware. They all believed that Raymond was still in the dark. This was actually the optimal situation for Raymond. Although it was Raymond's first time doing such a thing, he was able to do it with ease. Let them gift be again in a few days. In any case, once the gifting starts, more gifts would become less awkward. Maybe 3 or 4 times isn't a big deal. Having tasted the sweetness, Raymond immediately thought of something new. He needed a lot of things. If it was possible, he hoped that he could get all the foundations of the world's civilizations. After all, once a meteorite struck, there would be nothing left on the planet. It was better to take it all in one go. Or, I can make weapons first and force them to hand it over. The protective shield generator is almost done. I can make it today if all goes well. I don't know how well it'll actually perform, though. Once the protective shield generator proved itself to be the real thing, Raymond could move on with his plans. Moreover, the matter of the shield generator was only known to Raymond and Tuesday. Even Kim Hee-sun and Gal Gadot had been kept out of the loop. After breakfast, the freighter had almost arrived. Multiple cameras constantly took turns filming Raymond, giving several camera angles. The audience in the live broadcast room watched Raymond driving, not knowing why. Where is Thunder God going? Looks like he's going to the beach. Is he going to check on the progress of the construction? Won't Tuesday just tell him? What if Thunder God is the type who's only satisfied with what he sees with his own eyes? That's not right. Look, there's a cargo ship on the beach, F***ck, I know this ship. Isn't that Trident 16? Why is it here? Who are you? How do you know everything? It seems like a cargo ship. How fortunate does the Thunder God have to have a cargo ship turn up out of nowhere? Could it be arranged by the program team? No way. The program team is so rich. No way, this cargo ship can't have everything that the Thunder God needs, right? If this was really arranged by the program team, then it might be possible. If it's really arranged by the program team, then it'll be fun. Then, when the Thunder God sees all the treasure he needs, would he suspect anything? Now that you mention it, I'm suddenly interested. Under Tuesday's control, a group of robots stopped the cargo ship. They then moved the cargo ship to the dock. The giant gantry crane immediately began to operate. However, compared to the robots, the efficiency of the gantry crane was much slower. Sir, this is a box of titanium ore, this box is pig iron, this box is aluminum. Listening to Tuesday's report, Raymond's expression changed a few times. The audience watching the live broadcast felt that it was too interesting. However, they did not know that this was all Raymond putting on an act. After some time, Raymond grew tired of the facade. Just as he was about to leave, a new situation was reported to him on Tuesday. Sir, there's a Gundam model here. Do you need to remove it? Gundam. Although Raymond grew up in the slums, he had seen posters of Gundams. After an hour, he had always hoped that he could have a Gundam. Now, I can build one myself, that's even better. Chapter 79. Russian Space Agency. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 79. Russian Space Agency. Was the Gundam useful? It was somewhat useful. The keel of the space battleship needed to be made at the smelting plant and then transported to the assembly base. Of course, thousands of robots could carry out the operation, but it would take a long time. What if the future energy centers, engines, shield generators, and other large equipment all used Apocalypse robots? As for the gantry crane on the island, Raymond didn't have any ideas. That thing was too small, too inefficient. Moreover, there were enough materials now. Tuesday and Raymond could go crazy with their respective ideas and contribute to the assembly of the space battleship. It was the best of both worlds, so why not? But before that, Grozny planned to build the battleship's engine. The rocket engine that he had designed before was no longer useful. Moreover, rocket engines burned on chemical fuels, they were a one-time use. For the sake of convenience in the future, Raymond planned to upgrade it again. With the experience of the rocket engine, this time, Raymond's efficiency in designing the warship's engine was much higher. System, I plan to redesign the battleship's engine. Do you have any recommendations? It would be best if it could have a propulsion system like Iron Man's. According to your explanation, the Iron Man you mentioned should be using a plasma engine, or a non-working propellant. According to Earth's technology, you can read books about plasma engines. The following books are recommended. Hall Plasma Engine Research, Development and Application in Russia, Steady.State Plasma Engine, Pulse Plasma Engine Research, Plasma Generator, Heater and Exhaust Port. After listening to the system's explanation, Raymond immediately found the relevant books via Tuesday. Then, he had the system turn on the ultimate learning mode. This time, Raymond was no longer flipping through the books. To read books on the computer, he had to press the keyboard. Every time he pressed the spacebar, Raymond could read about 1,500 words. In the international broadcast room, the sound of the keyboard kept popping. It seemed that at the beginning, Raymond was not used to it. In the end, the sound of him pressing the keyboard was almost in a line. He never fully released the spacebar button, it was either half depressed or fully depressed. So the faster Raymond watched, the less noise he made. After dozens of minutes, the keyboard was out of order. Tuesday was almost psychic. Another keyboard was seamlessly handed over. The continuous sound rang again. After more than 2 hours. A digital board appeared in Raymond's hand. The digital board was originally used for drawing. And Raymond was using it to draw the engine blueprint. Large-scale plasma engine blueprint, 1. Seeing the title written by Raymond, the audience in the live broadcast room immediately understood what Raymond wanted to do. He was going to invent something new. Plasma engine. What is that? Ignorant. Actually, such an engine had been invented a long time ago, but this engine is very special, so it hasn't been popularized. How special is it? Boss, please tell us. Boss, please. As a third-year high school student, please. Then I'll tell you. When it comes to engines, most of you will probably think of engines powered by gasoline or diesel. Let's not talk about engines, let's just keep it healthy. Boss, don't play with color. Mine, I'll continue. But the plasma engine is different. This thing only needs electricity. It uses Lorentz force to accelerate charged atoms or ions through the magnetic field, producing force in one direction. Just electricity is enough. Why isn't it used in cars? Aren't high-tech for civilian use? Although the plasma engine is not bad, that's a big problem. The thrust of this thing is too small, or else it would have torn itself apart. Then why did Thunder God make this thing? Moreover, it being a large-scale one. Could it be, it's another technological innovation? I feel that traveling in space is no longer a dream. Thunder God is going to make a lot of scientists scratch their heads again. That netizen's guess was completely correct. At that moment, a lot of scientists were staring at Raymond's hand and the things he drew, afraid that they would miss any details. According to the experience from a few days ago, Raymond was reproducing the awe factor. But now, he was developing something entirely new. And it was a space engine that every country needed. They were staring at Raymond's hand. Roscosmos, the huge screen of the Russian space agency, was broadcasting Raymond's live broadcast. The program team only provided the audience on the internet with one camera angle. However, after Chekhov learned of Raymond's repeated breakthroughs, he had immediately ordered to have the broadcast signal hacked. Therefore, they saw everything the program team saw. They were watching what Raymond was doing from all directions. This is a bluff. Is this a plasma engine? Joseph looked at Raymond's actions and was a little speechless. As a rocket engine expert, Joseph's reputation was in the top 3 in the world. Even though Russia's national strength was no longer as strong as before, he was still able to reach such a level, which showed how strong he was. The design, development, and test flight of the rocket engine were all done by Joseph himself. Moreover, for the long-distance performance of flying chess, he had also focused on developing the plasma engine for several years. Therefore, when it came to the plasma engine, his opinion was highly regarded. Although he had not completely digested the rocket engine that Raymond had drawn a few days ago, he had already digested most of it. As long as he had enough time, he could finish it without Raymond's personal guidance. He was just that good. Originally, when the Russian space agency saw Joseph's progress, they seemed to have seen hope. But now, Joseph could not understand the blueprint of the plasma engine that Raymond had drawn. This time, all the scientists in the hall could not help but gape. "Sir, if you can't understand it, what are we looking at? It can't be." This time, even Joseph can't understand it. What did Raymond draw this time? There were many dumbfounded faces, and some looked completely lost. Why isn't there a supply point for the raw materials, and is it completely using electricity? This isn't scientific. This isn't scientific. Raymond couldn't have drawn it randomly, right? The theoretical design parameter is 5,600 tons of thrust. F***CKU, Raymond is messing around this time. How is that possible? Using chemical solid fuels produces the same power. Using electricity to achieve this effect. It completely violates Newton's second law. Did he eat the theory of relativity? Chapter 80. Raymond's Blueprint. Do you understand it? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 80. Raymond's Blueprint. Do you understand it? The people from the Russian Space Agency were dumbfounded. The scientists from Nashi couldn't understand it either. Professor McLean, do you have any ideas? A doctor in his 60s looked at the man beside him. This man wasn't tall, but he looked to be in his 40s. He was not ashamed to be called a professor by a doctor in his 60s. It seemed only natural. Moreover, the other scientists in the conference hall seemed to take it as a given. They all looked at McLean. McLean was not particularly popular, because he did not like to be known by many people. Only the Nazis knew his strength. Over the past few years, he had written dozens of papers on rockets, spaceships, and space stations. McLean was clearly very capable. But he didn't seem to hear his students' words. He looked carefully at Raymond's hand, anticipating where he would draw it next. Raymond did not seem to pause to ponder or survey his work in progress. It seemed that he already had the answer in his heart, and was drawing it just to engrave the idea into reality. So when Raymond drew the blueprint, his hand didn't stop at all. It was very fast. For the first few minutes, McLean still had a bit of doubt. In the next minute, he almost understood Raymond's idea. Now, new doubts arose. So at that moment, McLean was focused on Raymond on the screen. He hoped that the next minute would give him an answer. But this time, this doubt could no longer be answered by Raymond's drawing. What's going on? What does this circuit mean? McLaren scratched his remaining hair. What? Why is there another, this, what is this? At first, McLean could still understand Raymond's blueprint. But now, he had more and more questions. Just like in math class, once he was distracted, he wouldn't be able to understand what the teacher behind him said. What? What is all this? McLean's voice sounded a little pained. The scientists at the side didn't know what to do either. In the past, no matter what experiments McLean did or what papers he wrote, he seemed to be very confident. Every time, he would lead everyone to break through one difficult problem after another. Even if he encountered a problem, he only needed to think quietly, and it wouldn't take long for him to give an answer. But this time, Raymond's blueprint actually stumped him. Stumped. Moreover, it made him lose his composure in front of everyone for the first time. This was also the first time they had seen McLean like this. They did not know how to deal with it at all. No. I have to calm down. McLean forced himself to calm down. Masalu, save this video. Make 10 copies. Yes, sir. After giving his instructions, McLean immediately left the meeting hall. When he returned to his office, he immediately picked up his phone. Then, he slowly put it down. He turned on his computer and looked at Joseph's communication profile picture. He did not know if he should call him. Joseph belonged to Russia. McLean belonged to the United States. However, both of them were elites in this area. While the two of them had common topics to talk about, the others couldn't even get a word in edgewise. Of course, now there was another Raymond. Raymond was stronger than the two of them combined. But they couldn't get in touch. Although science had no borders, scientists had borders. If I video call him, my superiors won't say much about me, but, will Joseph think that I'm inferior to him? McLean was a little conflicted. Forget it, who cares what he thinks? Getting an answer is the most important thing. After making up his mind, McLean immediately turned on the computer monitor. This step was necessary to talk to Joseph. But just as McLean turned on the monitor, Joseph called him. Ha. Looks like he doesn't understand it either. No rush. Let's wait for 2 minutes. Seeing that it was almost time, McLean leisurely picked up the call. Why did you take so long to get through? Where have you been? Joseph immediately started questioning him. McLean did not care about his questioning at all. He slightly raised his head and smiled mockingly. Why? Did you run into a problem? Hee, you know very well what it is. Raymond drew the blueprint. Did you understand it? Joseph was bold. He did not stop to blush or look sheepish and directly brought the question to the crucial point. To be honest, it was indeed a little difficult. It made me think for 10 minutes. McLean did not turn red when he lied. Joseph was startled. You understood it. It can't be. What? You didn't understand it. McLean raised his eyebrows and looked at Joseph on the screen. He found it particularly interesting. He should have thought of it earlier. Joseph's ability was similar to his. He probably couldn't understand what I couldn't understand either. It was about the same. He didn't know how Raymond's brain had grown. If I was a medical student, I would have opened his skull to take a look. Well, there was a problem all right. Actually, it's not a big problem. Since it's not a big problem, I'll hang up now. McLean did not stick around. He spoke very bluntly as if he had already understood everything. No. About that, I won't beat around the bush. Tell me first. Joseph immediately wanted to know the answer, so he did not care about his pride any longer. Say it directly. Why should I? Hey, when I hear it and understand its value, I will naturally compensate you. Don't, this technology cannot be compensated with anything. If you don't show me something practical, I won't tell you. Hey. Joseph was displeased. I say, McLean, is it that dangerous? McLean was displeased. F***ck, you never even shared the spectroscopic technology that you owed me last time, and now you want me to just give it to you. Ah, I was so busy that I forgot. When you tell me, I'll give it to you immediately. I don't believe you, my *SS. Give it to me right now. At this point, McLean had made up his mind. No matter what, he had to make Joseph bleed this time. This old thing was always shameless, and this wasn't the first or second time. Wait a moment, let's talk about this first. No, later. Later I'll definitely give. No way. Don't you trust me? I don't. I say, you're young enough to be my son. Your teachers are all my brothers. Do you believe it? Ooh, I'm so scared. Go tell them. See what they'll say. Okay, I'll send it to you right now. Joseph could not bear the pain of Raymond's blueprint. You said that there was a problem with Raymond's blueprint. But McLean had understood it. There was something he did not understand. Since he understood it, then he had to understand it. So, even if that spectrum technology was very important, he had to hand it over now.